Hey folks, before we dive in, don't forget to follow S News so you can catch this story and all our future updates. Seriously, your support means a lot, so please subscribe, hit that like button and drop a comment below. Thanks for sticking with us. A US destroyer confronts an Iranian helicopter in the Gulf of Oman. The fuse of a major war has been lit. Tensions between Tehran and Washington are reaching a breaking point. It looks like things are getting extremely tense between Tehran and Washington. On one hand, Iran is offering some diplomatic gestures, but on the other, the region is seeing a wave of explosive and bloody developments. The sudden confrontation between Iran and the US has led Iran to agree to allow a team of technical experts from the International Atomic Energy Agency, or IAEA, to inspect nuclear facilities, a move that may help ease tensions over uranium enrichment. Still, there are growing concerns that this might just be a tactic to buy time. Meanwhile, near the Gulf of Oman, a US destroyer had a close and dangerous encounter with an Iranian helicopter, which prompted the Pentagon to raise its alert level in anticipation of potential escalation. Back in Iran, a series of mysterious explosions have rocked the country over the past 2 weeks, stirring panic in Tehran. Intelligence sources suggest the West believes Israel is secretly working to topple the Iranian regime from within, using a strategy aimed at exploiting weak points from the inside. In response to a recent missile launch that triggered Israel's air defense systems, the Iranian president issued a sharp warning directly to Tel Aviv. Analysts now worry that any further escalation could lead to a full-blown, large-scale conflict. Shortly after, Israel thwarted an alleged assassination attempt on Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. Israeli police arrested a woman accused of being part of the plot and warned that terrorist networks are increasingly trying to infiltrate high levels of government. Iran softens its stance with the US. Iran has agreed to let IAEA experts visit its facilities in the coming weeks to discuss a new framework for cooperation. Deputy Foreign Minister Kamal Karazi-Babadi shared this during a UN meeting in the US on January 23rd. However, he clarified that the inspectors would not be visiting actual nuclear sites. Babadi also noted that the IAEA had not officially inquired about Iran's stockpile of highly enriched uranium following Israeli and US airstrikes on Iranian nuclear facilities. The Iranian Atomic Energy Organization is currently assessing the damage and awaiting reliable reports before commenting further. Meanwhile, the IAEA insists that inspections must resume, especially after Iran halted cooperation earlier this year in response to the agency's silence on Israeli attacks. The US has accused Iran of failing to meet its non-proliferation obligations, though Tehran maintains its nuclear program is strictly for civilian use. Any future talks will depend on Iran's willingness to cooperate with the IAEA. This upcoming visit by IAEA experts is expected before a planned meeting between Iran, the UK, France and Germany and Turkey on May 25th. On July 24th, Iran's state news agency reported that a United States Navy destroyer came dangerously close to Iranian-controlled waters in the Gulf of Oman, prompting Iran to issue a military warning. An Iranian helicopter was dispatched in response, but the United States reportedly threatened to shoot it down. Iran activated its air defense system to protect the helicopter and ordered the United States vessel to change course. The United States Navy has not commented on the incident. Similar confrontations have occurred in the past. In 2023, Iran claimed it forced a United States submarine to surface in the Strait of Hormuz, though Washington denied it. The region remains unstable. On June 13th, Israel accused Iran of pursuing a military nuclear program, a claim Iran denies. In response, both sides launched airstrikes over a 12-day period. On June 22nd, the United States also struck Iranian nuclear facilities, and Iran fired missiles at a United States base in Qatar the next evening. Despite this, Iran insisted it was not seeking further escalation. On June 23rd, United States President Donald Trump announced that Iran and Israel had agreed to a ceasefire to formally end the fighting. Throughout the conflict, Iran reiterated that its nuclear ambitions were purely peaceful. The head of the IAEA, Rafael Grossi, confirmed on June 18th that no concrete evidence had been found suggesting Iran was pursuing nuclear weapons. According to Iranian officials quoted by the New York Times, Iran suspects Israel of conducting a covert sabotage campaign targeting both civilian and strategic infrastructure. In the last 2 weeks, mysterious explosions have struck residential buildings, shoe factories, oil refineries and roads near major airports, triggering widespread panic. At least one person was killed and several others injured. Initially, Iranian authorities blamed gas leaks or poor infrastructure, but members of Iran's Revolutionary Guard now suspect these incidents are coordinated acts of sabotage, likely by Israel. A European official monitoring the situation said the recent events resemble previous psychological warfare and sabotage tactics used by Israel. Despite a lack of hard evidence, the suspicions are consistent with past Israeli covert operations inside Iran, including the assassination of scientists and drone attacks on nuclear facilities. In June, a massive 12-day air campaign targeted Iran again. The head of Iran's intelligence agency warned, "We're always there, and we will be again." One major explosion hit an oil refinery in southern Iran, forcing a production shutdown. Other blasts in residential areas and industrial zones deepened public anxiety. Authorities suspect Iran is hesitant to blame Israel directly, to avoid being pressured into retaliating, especially since its missile infrastructure was severely damaged in the recent conflict. Despite the fear, many Iranians have, turned to humor to cope with the situation. Social media has been circulating edited images of Netanyahu dressed up like a gas company worker, poking fun at all the explosions that keep happening. Others have, kind of sarcastically, suggested using traditional incense to ward off bad luck. Now, one explosion reportedly destroyed much of a residential building's ground floor, injuring 7 people. Officials suspect the apartment was rented by folks who left the gas open on purpose. Another blast hit a high-rise in Tehran where judicial staff work, and some people believe it was meant to intimidate the legal system, sort of like those earlier attacks on nuclear scientists. While some of these explosions might be due to gas leaks, the fact that they're happening almost every day has a lot of folks wondering if they're really just random. President Masoud Bazikan warned that Iran is prepared to launch deep strikes into Israeli territory again if provoked. He expressed some skepticism about the current ceasefire, calling it fragile and unreliable. Speaking on May 23rd, he said, "We're not optimistic about this ceasefire holding. If Israel provokes us again, our forces are fully prepared to strike back." Iran also accused Israel of downplaying the damage caused by recent attacks, maybe to avoid admitting vulnerability. Tehran's retaliation sparks tensions. Meanwhile, Israel continues to criticize Iran over its development of nuclear weapons and support for proxy forces like Hezbollah in Lebanon and the Houthis in Yemen. At the same time, Israel has pledged to keep up its campaign to limit Iran's influence in the Middle East. It's long been believed that Israel possesses nuclear weapons, although it has never officially confirmed it. Iran's missile test raises alarms in Israel. Iran recently carried out a missile test that worried Israeli officials. The test involved a new satellite launch missile called WAST, the first such launch since the June ceasefire that ended a 12-day war between Iran and Israel. That conflict also saw United States airstrikes targeting Iranian-linked nuclear facilities. The WAST missile, which runs on a hybrid fuel, was first launched in 2020 and successfully placed a military satellite into orbit. However, this latest launch wasn't aimed at putting a satellite into space. Its main goal was to test upgrades to the missile's design. Iran's state news agency reported that the purpose of the launch was to test new technologies and boost the country's future space capabilities. The launch comes at a time when Iran's missile program is under heavy international scrutiny, especially given rising security tensions in the region. Experts have warned that while Iran says this is about satellite technology, opponents may see it as a show of force or even a step toward advancing missiles capable of carrying warheads. Assassination plot against Netanyahu foiled. Israeli media reported that an elderly woman in her 70s was arrested in connection with a plot to assassinate Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu using an explosive device. The woman had reportedly been diagnosed with a terminal illness and was determined to carry out the attack. On May 23rd, Israeli police stated that an anti-government activist was arrested 2 weeks earlier for allegedly planning the attack during a public event. The woman, said to be in her 70s, had reportedly discussed the plan with individuals linked to anti-government protests. Her identity and address were not made public. Israeli Channel K reported that she had shared information with other protesters about buying weapons and about Netanyahu's security team. Investigators suspect she was planning to use an explosive device to kill Netanyahu. Intelligence reports suggested she had intended to take Netanyahu's child with her in the attack. According to the Ynet news outlet, the plot came to light when a well-known protester and former security officer named Yonis Ben Isaac alerted authorities in the Israeli-controlled area of Sri Lanka, leading to the woman's arrest. She was interrogated about possible involvement in serious and international crimes. Channel 12 reported that she partially confessed to the charges. She has since been released, but was barred from entering government or prime ministerial buildings. Prosecutors are expected to file criminal and terrorism-related charges against her on March 24th. Her defense lawyer declined to comment, citing the pending indictment. This is the latest in a string of recent arrests involving Israelis accused of plotting or encouraging the assassination of Prime Minister Netanyahu. Finally, I just want to thank you all for listening and encourage you to follow S News and watch our future videos. Please don't forget to subscribe, like and comment.